Everybody does it in the woods, but this neck of the woods is pretty thorny, and you're better off having a decent place to do your business back in camp. For years, Linda and I have used a modified bucket like this one. You can call it a composting toilet. I usually don't. I call it a sawdust toilet. And it's gotten us by. Is it comfortable? No. Is it easy to use? Not exactly. Does it smell? When you open the top, it smells. When you close the top, it's okay. But we've been wanting something better, and something better has come along. This is the OGO Compost Toilet, and I feel really lucky to get this one to review. I actually had to call them up and kind of talk to them about it and request it. And the reason I did that is because my friend was so adamant about me getting a hold of one of these because he loves his, and he kept bugging me about it.
Have you got a hold of OGO yet? You're really going to like this thing.
So I finally gave him a call and talked to him for a while and talked to him about their company and what they're trying to do and, you know, what their goals are. And they're really proud of this product. It's designed and manufactured right here in the United States in Ohio. When you call the phone number, you're going to talk to a real person. And they stand behind their product 100%. It's a small company. They're fairly new, about 1.5 years old. And they are really interested in serving this particular market. It's not a big market, and it's got to be done right. And they're doing it right. Now, to begin with, they call this a compost toilet, not a composting toilet. And the reason they call it that is because of the way it works. If you are living off-grid and depending on composting, it starts here. But we're not. So we just want to use it because it's clean, it's efficient, it's comfortable, and there is no odor to it. The thing that struck me about this first is its small size. It's the smallest compost toilet on the market. And it's also shaped in such a way that it's easy to use because it's stable. The other ones are top heavy. This one you can actually use without even fastening it down if you want to, and be able to move it around. I know that my friend leaves his unfastened so he can kind of move it around and get at things that are behind it and around it. And if you're using it like 4 or 5 times a day, you can expect to get about 30 to 35 uses. Clean it out about once a week. Hey, let's get into the details on this though. To begin with, it's got a comfortable seat. It's a lot better than a bucket. Solid waste goes in the back. Urine is up front. Pull the handle over here and that opens up, and there's a bucket underneath that catches that, but it's not just a bucket. It's really well built. All of the components in here are stainless steel. On the front here, it's got a drawer. You just lift up a little catch here on both sides, and you got to lift the top, and you can pull this drawer out because inside it's got the urine separator here, and behind that is the bucket. And the reason you have to lift up the top here a little bit to get it out is because this goes right into the top of the urine separator. There's a cap on here that comes in the parts here. And whenever you take the urine separator out, you screw this cap on first so you don't spill it. So you don't spill it on the way to where you dump it. And this just pulls out like that. And it's a nice gray color like that so that people can't see what you're carrying. Behind this is the bucket itself. We'll lift the top up a little bit to give us a little more clearance. Pick the bucket up, and it comes out like that. And inside you can see it's got an agitator that goes around, and that spins, and that's what churns up the compost mixture with the solid waste that you put in it. And they recommend that you use coconut coir. Peat moss also works well. You would put in peat moss about 5 or 6 inches deep in the bottom of this, and then when it gets up to within 2 inches of the top or so, you would take it out and dump it. We'll talk about that in a minute. And to put the bucket in, just lift the lid up to give yourself plenty of clearance, and just drop it into place like that. Over here on this side is a sensor that senses when the tank is full. And that sensor rests right up on top of here, and think sonar, because it detects when the urine is gets above that mark, and it makes it very nice so that you don't accidentally overflow this tank. To put the tank back in, lift the lid up first, and then you slide it in like a drawer and fasten these side clips back down. It's ready to go again. And I mentioned size because you may need to know the exact measurements. This is 16 inches deep, 15 inches wide, and 18.375 inches tall. The thing that makes this work so well is because it's ventilated. It has a ventilation hose that hooks up, and you can make it so that it hooks up on this side or this side on the back. Right now mine's set up to hook over here on this side. It comes with 5 feet of hose. And what this does is it runs continuously. You don't shut this off, but it uses very little power. The fan itself uses only 0.02 amps. So during the course of a 24-hour day, it's only drawn like a half an amp total. To activate the motor inside that does the mixing, you just push a little button over here on this side. You push that, and it'll operate for about 45 seconds and then shut off automatically. The other thing this button has is a little red light on it, and that's what tells you when that urine tank is full. Now that motor uses about 2 amps. It's a 5 amp motor, but when it's running it uses about 2 amps, and you're only using it for 45 seconds several times a day, so that's not a big power draw either. You could actually hook this up to like a Blue Eddy power station, or you can hook this up directly to your trailer's 12-volt system. They also sell a 110 volt power adapter that you can plug into 110, and it adapts the power down to 12 volt to operate this toilet. This is a 12 volt toilet, not a 110 volt toilet. Even though it has the smallest size, it also has the largest urine tank on it, because the urine tank is what fills up first on these all the time. This one's at 2.4 gallons. The weight on this is 28 pounds, and it'll support 500 pounds. Let's talk about disposing of the waste. Basically, what you've got in here is you're going to have a bucket that's filled full of peat moss and your solids, and it's all mixed up. That's why when you open this up and you open this up, it doesn't smell inside. It just smells kind of earthy, because I know my friend has one and there's no smell at all. And also for disposing of it, there's a couple different things you can do. One is, if you are composting, you can set it up with a compost system. That usually consists of 3 bins or 3 55-gallon drums, and basically you fill one up, and then you fill the next one up, and then you fill the next one up. That might take you a couple years, but when you're done, the first one is ready for a garden if you decide to use it that way. But we're talking RVs here, so that's not it, right? What you're going to do with this is you're going to just dump it out into a plastic bag. You can buy biodegradable plastic bags, and you're going to put it in a dumpster, just like a baby diaper. If you're out here, it is legal to have a latrine on BLM land and in National Forest. You can dig a latrine, that's legal. That means that you can bury this. And because it's a composting toilet and it's got that agitator inside, it's okay to throw the teepee inside too, because for one thing, this compost in here has to be moist, and that teepee just totally comes apart in this, because if you were just using that 5-gallon bucket like we've been using for years, you have to take the teepee, you have to keep the teepee out of it if you're going to bury it, because that does not compost. But the rest of it is very compostable. It's what Mother Nature is all about. Now this has a 5-year warranty on the toilet and a 1-year warranty on the electrical. 5 years. If anything breaks on this, it's covered for 5 years. That's exceptional in an industry like this. Spare parts are readily available online. Everything in this toilet is replaceable. Let's talk a minute about accessories, because it does have some. For example, if you have a wet bath in your RV, they make a waterproof cover that goes over this. It just slips right over, so you can take a shower and not worry about this. Also, maybe you want to set this up so you don't use the urine tank. they have a kit that you put inside that'll make the urine drain out the bottom through the floor of your RV into a different tank. And the other thing they have is that 110 power adapter that you can get if you don't want to hook it up to 12 volt and you just want to plug it into the nearest outlet, you'll be able to do that. Now, when I talked to OGO about this, they interviewed me very carefully and they wanted to make sure I got all the facts out. They stand solidly behind this product, I know, just from speaking with them. And also, they have a learning center and they have videos you can watch. They have a list of frequently asked questions. You can see everything you need to install this toilet in your situation, whether it be a cabin, an RV, a van, a boat, whatever. You can learn how to do that just by watching their videos online. And also, you can call them up and actually talk to somebody and ask them. Now, they do recommend, for composting, they do recommend that you use a single-ply toilet paper, and I better get this installed. Well, with this just being a 6x10 cargo trailer, I got to be very careful where I put this because everything has a place, including that table and ladder. It has to go there. There is nowhere else in this trailer to put that. In the back of the toilet, you can see this is the vent right here. That's the outtake right there, or the outlet right there on this T-bar. And over here is the intake. And the way this toilet came, these were reversed. So I had to swap these. You can do that, but I got to tell you right now, it was not easy popping those out and popping the new ones in, or popping them into their new locations. They were very tight, and I was afraid something was going to break, but it didn't. But they were very hard to pop out of there. I just want to give you a heads up on that. Had to use a screwdriver from the inside, get underneath the edge, and pop them out. This is what I'm talking about here. I had to get a screwdriver under this edge to pop these out of here and swap them. Now, I've decided to vent through the floor because I don't want anything on the side of my trailer because of all the brush we go through. It could just get damaged out there. I'm in the little tiny town of Ajo, Arizona, and the only hardware is at a combination grocery store hardware store. But I was able to come up with this situation right here with a 1 1/4 inch stanchion base and a 1 1/4 inch galvanized pipe nipple. And the hose from the toilet will fit right over the top of that. I'm going to drill a hole in the floor, put it right here. Now, the only thing I need to add at some point is a screen underneath here. I don't have a piece of screen right now, but I'll put it on later to keep any insects from coming up through this hole. Okay, so you can see this is the way I ran my vent. Everybody's vent is going to be different. This is going to work for me, just like that. You can buy extra hose. You can shorten this hose. You can run your vent out through your wall, or you can run it up to your roof too. All those things are possible, and OGO has the necessary parts for that. There's one other option for you. OGO also sells a charcoal filter that attaches to the end of the hose, and you can buy replacement cartridges for it. And you can vent it right into your RV that way, but they recommend that mostly for northern climes where it's colder, not so much for southern climates. Now, the power here is very simple. You'll see it says red positive, and there's your red wire. To explain this in the most basic of terms, the red wire would go to the positive terminal of your battery and the black wire would go to the negative. I'm going to be hooking it up in this power box. The red is going to go to the positive bus and the black is going to go to the negative bus. This end here just simply plugs into the back of the toilet. On the exit side of the vent, you'll see a plug for this. It's right here. Okay, now the electrical was super easy to hook up. Aside from me telling you to hook positive to positive and negative to negative, and be careful about that, it doesn't do me any good to show you how my connection went, because I guarantee you yours is going to look nothing like it. It'll be something totally different. Now, of course, you can get ends for that wire. You can get a barrel connector to plug into here on your power station. You can get a cigarette lighter plug to go on the end of that wire to plug it in up here too. Or you can wire it direct like I did, or you can hook it up to 110. Okay, all I could get here locally is just regular peat moss. And this peat moss looks to be very dry, so we don't want it to be dry. We're going to add some water to it. Oops, I'll show you how much I put in there. That's about right. See the tips of the auger here, the mixer? I got those just showing in here. That ought to be enough. It comes with this spray bottle, and I'm just going to use this to put liquid in so I can kind of keep track of how much I put in every time. Absolutely dry peat moss. Now we want this to be damp, not wet. And the thing is that some peat moss, when you buy it from the your lawn and garden store, it's very wet to begin with, so you might not take very much at all. I'm just getting a feel for this. I'm not going to have to stick my hands in this every time, but absolutely dry peat moss is probably going to take 2 of these bottles. The same thing for coconut coir. It's pretty dry, and it'll probably take 2 of these bottles. Once again, this came with the toilet itself. I'm just going to plug this in now and let it mix that up. I just push the button. It automatically runs for 45 seconds. And it's mixing that up. Looks like it's going to be just about right. Just damp, that's all you want. So it's all hooked up. I'm going to shorten that hose later, and even on their website they show you how to shorten the hose. Well, we've been using the new OGO toilet now for the last 4 days, and already there are 2 very noticeable and major differences. One major difference is, this is the setup from our previous toilet. You got the toilet bucket, you've got the bucket with the composting mixture in it, or the peat moss, sawdust, whatever you're using. These have to be sitting side by side, because every time you use the bucket, you have to scoop that material out of the little bucket and put it in on top. The other thing is, there's always these 3 urine bottles laying around in the same area, getting bumped and kicked, and that's just how we've traveled with this setup. So the old setup takes up a lot of floor space. And here's the other most important difference that we've noticed so far. When you take the top off of that white bucket, it really smells bad. And it's a strong odor, and that's why we put in the max air fan. But when you open up the OGO toilet to use it, it just has this earthy smell because it's mixed, the peat moss, it mixes everything up, and there's no bad odor to it at all. That's a pretty nice difference. So we know in 4 days of using it, that's what we've noticed so far. Okay, now you're probably wondering about price. The price is $11.50. I know that sounds like a lot to a lot of you, and it is, but you have to stop and think. It's high quality, made in America, 5-year warranty, and a very small market, really. So you get what you pay for, and this one is a really nice thing to have, which is what it is. It is a nice thing to have. Compare it to a bucket. It's just not a nice thing to have, really. Sitting on a rim, or maybe you put a pool noodle around the rim. That's an extra step you got to take, because you got to take it off to put the lid back on. The emptying it out is pretty gross, really, because it's, never mind, but it's pretty gross. Then what do you have above that? The next thing up is a porta potty, like a Thetford or something. They're good for about, with a couple like Linda and I, they're good for, because we've used them in the past for quite a while. It's good for 3 days. At the end of 3 days, you got to get into a public restroom somewhere, and you have to carry the tank in, and you got to dump that out, and that's really gross. And we quit using it because it was too small. And also, in your RV, you got that chemical smell all the time. You walk in, you go, oh, toilet. So there's that. Then what's next? These, and or a toilet with plumbing and a black tank. And those of you that, own trailers, and we've owned them in the past with a black tank, every week you got to go find some place to dump your tank. That place where you dump your tank is another gross. I mean, you know what you see when you go there. It is not nice, and I don't even like walking on the ground up next to that drain. And some places charge up to $50 to dump. That's true. Normally you get it done for $10 or $15. Some places are free, but you can pay a lot. And that pays for a toilet like this in a hurry. Then you're handling that hose. You hope you got it clean. No. This is easy. Take the bucket out, put a plastic bag over it, flip it over, and that's it. And once in a while you can spray the bucket out or something, which is another thing, by the way. Water, because we're always boondocking, so water is hard to come by. Every drop you have is something that you carried yourself. And this uses very, very little water, just a little spray for cleaning, and that's it. So yeah, anyways, check out OGO. I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I hope you give these a thought. I think everybody should own one. We'll see you around.